I'll work on those who arrived so far. Now we just have a minute or two, but we'll start as usual with a little bit of silent meditation. Allowing our minds to just be quiet and receptive. So we just start with about 10 minutes of silent meditation. Make sure your mics are off. And if you're unable to stay still, please also take your camera off. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Dhamma. And today our sutta is from the Middle Length Discourses, and it's Dīghanakhasutta. It's number 74. So it's MN 74. If you have the hard copy, or you can get it electronically, Sutta Central. I'm going to be looking at both. Would you mind reading the notes? I have the notes, and Preliminary Sakima will be reading the notes as we go along. So this is an interesting sutta. It's to Dīghanakha, but you can see how in this teaching of Venerable Sariputta, I don't know if the word, he's also present in the presence of the Lord Buddha. He's fanning the Buddha as he speaks. So you could imagine this hot day and this wanderer comes up. And this is another one of those situations where the wanderers challenge the Buddha according to their views. They want to debate. And the commentaries say that Dīghanakha was Sariputta's cousin, I believe. Cousin or nephew. Oh, I'm sorry, nephew. Thank you. Was his nephew. So maybe he was concerned that Sariputta has got to this other sect or something, doesn't believe in his view. So I think you can see on the screen, the shared screen, this is Nyanamoli, Venerable Nyanamoli's translation that Bhante Bodhi, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, has done copious notes when it was first published. So we'll start. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Rajajaha in the Boar's Cave on the mountain of Vulture Peak. Then the wanderer Dīghanakha went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he stood at one side and said to the Blessed One, Master Gotama, my doctrine and view is this: nothing is acceptable to me. This view of yours, Ayya Suvijjana, nothing is acceptable to me. Is not at least that view acceptable to you? There are no.
So the first two notes is that Dīghanakha was Venerable Sariputta's nephew. At the time he approached the Buddha, Sariputta had been a bhikkhu for only 2 weeks and was still the stream emperor. M.A. holds that Dīghanakha is an annihilationist and explains this assertion to mean, no mode of rebirth is acceptable to me. However, the text itself does not give any concrete evidence supporting this interpretation. It seems much more likely that Dīghanakha's statement, nothing is acceptable to me, is intended to apply specifically to other philosophical views, and thus shows Dīghanakha to be a radical skeptic of the class satirically characterized at Majjhima Nikaya 7630 as heel-wrigglers. His assertion would then be tantamount to a wholesale repudiation of all philosophical views.
Thank you. So so then Dīghanakha replies, if this view of mine were acceptable to me, Master Gotama, it too would be the same. It too would be the same. Well, Ayya Suvijjana, there are plenty in the world who say it too would be the same. It too would be the same. Yet they do not abandon that view, and they take up still some other view. Those are few in the world who would say it too would be the same. It too would be the same, and who abandon that view and do not take up some other view. Also, if they see a note, let me know.
Okay. Two more notes. If you want them right away or later on.
Does it seem relevant?
Not really.
Okay, if they're not, doesn't seem too relevant, you can skip over that. Ayya Suvijjana, there are some recluses and Brahmins whose doctrine and view is this: everything is acceptable to me. There are some recluses and Brahmins whose doctrine and view is this: nothing is acceptable to me. And there are some recluses and Brahmins whose doctrine and view is this: something is acceptable to me, something is not acceptable to me. Among these, the view of those recluses and Brahmins who hold the doctrine and view, everything is acceptable to me, is close to lust, close to bondage, close to delighting, close to holding, close to clinging. The view of those recluses and Brahmins who hold the doctrine and view, nothing is acceptable to me, is close to non-lust, close to non-bondage, close to non-delighting, close to non-holding, and close to non-clinging. I think there's a... And okay. When this was said, the wanderer Dīghanakha remarked, Master Gotama commends my point of view. Master Gotama recommends my point of view. There's not really, I'll continue. Ayya Suvijjana, as to those recluses and Brahmins who holds the doctrine and view, something is acceptable to me, something is not acceptable to me. The view of theirs as to what is acceptable is close to lust, close to bondage, close to delighting, close to holding, close to clinging, while the view of theirs as to what is not acceptable is close to non-lust, close to non-bondage, close to non-delighting, close to non-holding, and close to non-clinging. So he's saying close to, he's not saying it is. And I think there's a note about that.
Right. So MA identifies the three views here as eternalism, annihilationism, and partial eternalism. The eternalist view is close to lust because it affirms and delights in existence and however sublimated a form. Annihilation is close to non-lust, etc., because though involving a wrong conception of self, it leads to disenchantment with existence. If the second view is understood as radical skepticism, it could also be seen as close to non-lust in that it expresses disillusionment with the attempt to buttress the attachment to existence with theoretical foundation, and thus represents a tentative, though mistaken, step in the direction of dispassion.
So I just want to add my own commentary. It seems like also aversion, that when nothing is acceptable to me would be aversive. So it's not particularly a wholesome standpoint either. See if Bhante Sujato has anything particular The only thing is that he says that, if you have his translation, he says that, the view of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom nothing is acceptable is far from greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. But I looked at the Pali, and there's a Santike, which is near, in the vicinity of or presence of, and then it's non-greed. It's asaragaya, which is raga, it's like passion, or desire, it's but so it's asa, it's like just away from like so it's close to being aversive, actually, it seems like to me. Yeah, I was trying to understand what the Lord Buddha was actually saying about these two views. Looking at the Pali, Santike is close to, and then everything is in the negative when it's coming to the, when nothing is acceptable, everything is negated. I'm getting a lot of question marks, so with the automatic translator, it doesn't, there's too many compounds there. So we can continue with the shared screen, if you wouldn't mind. The shared screen is off somehow on mine. Okay, thank you. So, so then the Lord, pardon me, I've got it. Thank you. The Lord Buddha continues. He said here that Bandha Bodhi has it close to non-lust, close to non-bondage, close to non-delighting, close to non-holding, close to non-clinging. But it would be non or negating or anyway, it's the negative form. So now I'll continue reading. Now, Ayya Suvijjana, a wise man or a wise person among those recluses and Brahmins who hold the doctrine in view, everything is acceptable to me, considers thus. If I obstinately adhere to my view, everything is acceptable to me, and declare only this is true, everything else is wrong, then I may clash with the two others, with the recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine and view, nothing is acceptable to me, and with the recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine and view, something is acceptable to me and something is not acceptable to me. I may clash with these two, and when there is a clash, there is disputes. When there are disputes, there are quarrels. When there are quarrels, there is vexation. Thus, foreseeing for themselves clashes, disputes, quarrels, and vexation, they abandon that view and do not take up some other view. This is how there comes to be an abandoning of these views. This is how there comes to be a relinquishing of these views. So this is what the Buddha is saying a wise person would do, to consider getting into conflict with others. And then we can continue on. A wise person among those recluses and Brahmins who hold the doctrine in view, nothing is acceptable to me, considers thus. If I obstinately adhere to my view, nothing is acceptable to me, and declare only this is true, anything else is wrong, then I may clash with the two others, with the recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine in view, everything is acceptable to me, and with the recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine in view, something is acceptable to me, and something is not acceptable to me. I may clash with these two, and when there is a clash, there are disputes. When there are disputes, there are quarrels. When there are quarrels, there is fixation. Thus, foreseeing for himself or herself, themselves clashes, disputes, quarrels, and vexation, they abandon that view and do not take up some other view. This is how there comes to be an abandoning of these views. This is how there comes to be a relinquishing of these views. And a wise person among those recluses and Brahmins who hold the doctrine in view, something is acceptable to me, something is not acceptable to me, considers thus, if I obstinately adhere to my view, something is acceptable to me, something is not acceptable to me, and declare, only this is true, everything else is wrong, then I may clash with the two others, with a recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine in view, everything is acceptable to me, with a recluse or Brahmin who holds the doctrine in view, nothing is acceptable to me. I may clash with these two, and when there is a clash, there are disputes. When there are disputes, there are quarrels. When there are quarrels, there is a vexation. Thus, foreseeing in themselves clashes, disputes, quarrels, vexation, they abandon that view and do not take up some other view. This is how there comes to be an abandoning of these views. This is how there comes to be a relinquishing of these views. So the Lord Buddha is pointing out, really the wise person really is on the side of avoiding conflict or dispute, and also adhering to some view just because it's their view. And there may be, I think there's a note at this point too.
This teaching is undertaken to show Dīghanakha the danger in his view, and thereby encourage him to discard it.
So Ayya Suvijjana has changed this to, so if there may be a question, and so this is a really important thing where the Lord Buddha isn't really arguing with Dīghanakha about his particular view, but the idea of just holding to a view. And so he's presenting a kind of a logical way of considering this. What would be the wise way to approach the situation? And it also reminds me a little bit of the Honeyball Sutta, where this wanderer comes and he challenges the Lord Buddha, and the Buddha says, "Well, he says, what doctrine does the Buddha proclaim?" And the Buddha says, I proclaim a doctrine that doesn't quarrel with anyone, that doesn't dispute with anyone." So this is the wise way of not disputing. So is there question at this point so far? Richard, you have something you want to? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Ayya. So these views or types of views, these are all speculative views. They're just people's idea that they think this might be right, this might not be right, this might be true, this might not be true, whatever. And so we're going to see going forward, I won't go into any detail, but the Buddha is now going to describe things as they actually are. That's why you were talking about he doesn't dispute. You brought up the Honeyball Sutta. It's because what he says are just truths. They're not disputable, right? So just quickly give an example, but we'll read in a second. You know, how your body, your form is just made of elements and it's going to disintegrate someday. That's just a truth. That's a worldly truth. They're indisputable facts. And so rather than just having speculations, oh, maybe this is true, maybe this isn't true, maybe the universe is like this or whatever, he doesn't go into those areas, because that's all just people's ideas and they're disputable. But when he describes exactly how the universe works, right, those things are just clear. Anyone can see that, So, anyways, that's my view of what's being taught right here. That's my
Okay, thank you, Richard. Okay,
Anyway, thank you for listening.
so, yeah, this is, actually what we'll see. It's coming up. Do we have another question? Is there another? No. This is the beauty of the Buddhist teaching. That it's something that we can examine for ourselves, instead of it being a view or opinion or something that people are speculating about. Exactly what Richard was saying. So we can continue. So I love this because Lord Buddha has shaken Dīghanakha up a little bit and shaken him from clinging to some view. And then he hits him with this very powerful, two aspects of a really powerful teaching. So we can in paragraph 10, we'll continue. Oh, this is 9. We're at 9. Okay, excuse me. There are Ayya Suvijjana, this body of material form consisting of 4 great elements, procreated by mother and father and built up of boiled rice and porridge, is subject to impermanence, to being worn and rubbed away, to dissolution, to disintegration. It should be regarded as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, a dart, a calamity, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as void, as not self. When one regards this body thus, one abandons desire for the body, affection for the body, subservience to the body. So this is like kind of, just leave it here, please. First you're starting with the 4 great elements, which is just how it is. It's made out of material form. So solid, liquid, heat, and air. So that's without any of those 4, or they're out of balance, the body can't exist. And all living beings in the world have to have some kind of a balance of these 4. So he's talking about just kind of facts of life with mother and father, and then how we have to be nourished, and then to grow, to mature. And then we spend all this time growing up, and then all of a sudden it's like subject to impermanence. Even when you're a child, you can injure yourself or die. Babies die all the time, unfortunately. Being worn and rubbed away. This is for aging, to dissolution, to disintegration after death. Even though people with aging bodies can sense their body disintegrating. And it should be regarded as impermanent. This is a characteristic, anicca, as dukkha, suffering, a disease, a tumor, a dart. This is all dukkha, a calamity. This is quite dramatic. Looking at Bondi Sujata has some other colorful words, but this is like very powerful. Where'd you go? Where did you change the screen on me? Okay. The physical body is made up of 4 primary elements produced by mother and father, built up of rice and porridge. It's impermanent, wearing away, erosion, to breaking up, to disintegration. You should see it as impermanent suffering, as disease, a boil, a dart, misery, affliction, as alien. Alien has to do with non-self. As falling apart, as empty, this is also non-self. And then he says non-self. So we have the three characteristics here, just looking at the body alone. And it's foolish person would to dispute the fact that the body is impermanent. Maybe some people would say in some realm or something or other, I don't know. Someone probably could argue it. But most sensible people wouldn't argue it. And especially as you get older, when you this list of lovely things. So yeah, I guess does anyone have a question or anything they'd like to add at this point? Are there any notes?
Just one note that at this point, Dīghanakha has discarded his annihilationist view. Thus, the Buddha now undertakes to teach him insight meditation, first by way of the impermanence of the body, and then by way of the impermanence of the mental factors under the heading of feeling.
So I guess we could continue unless somebody else has a comment. Okay, there's a hand up. There is a hand up? Yeah.
It's just Richard again. Thank you. I just want to point two things out. So when it says as not self, this is not really a clear translation of atta. Atta means permanent self, and Buddha has just described here all these things that show that the body is impermanent, right? And so that's why that's the qualification, because it's not permanent. It can't possibly be a self, okay, or a permanent self. And the other thing is that where it says, you give up the last item, subservience to the body. Well, if you think about it, right? Oh, I have to feed my body. Oh, I have to clean my body. Oh, I have to clothe my body. Oh, I have to protect my body, right? I have to find a shelter for my body, etc., right? I have to keep my body warm, right? So if you think about it, you're constantly serving this body. That's the whole point of this existence, to try to maintain and keep this body going all the time. So I kind of like that he added that there at the end, subservience to the body.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Anyway,
I saw that too. And Karina, I saw Karina had a hand up.
Yes, hi, Ayya. Sorry, it's not the best time to have my camera on, but yeah, I was just going to ask a question about the subservience of the body, to clarification on what that meant. Yeah, and Richard, I appreciate you saying earlier about what he means by views, because I could see myself talking with someone and someone says, oh, well, thinking the body is impermanent is just another view. Aren't you just holding on to that? But yeah, it's not a view. It's kind of a fact. It's like, show me a permanent body. But yeah, I was just the qualifications at the end. Just it almost feels like it's not even your own body, but even like I can't remember the words exactly, but the desire for the body. I was thinking maybe like other people's bodies, the desire for other people's bodies, and the subservience to the body. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. That's why for me, yeah, it does take a lot of work. And I'm trying to find what's the right attitude to hold the body or the upkeep of the body. Because I could see how, there's kind of almost like a spectrum. Like I can see it being like, oh, the body is just such a pain to take care of. It just takes so much work and time, especially if you're dealing with like a chronic illness or something where it just takes more maintenance to keep it going. Versus saying, well, I'm using this vehicle to to get as much mileage as I can so I can do wholesome things. I'm just kind of like, what's a right view of the body?
I like your second idea about caring for the body, getting as much mileage. I think there's an obsession you can go from when the Buddha talks about the middle way. So not to neglect the body. We have the 4 requisites as monastic. And so we're using the clothing just to protect the body, and the food to nourish, to maintain the body, and shelter to protect the body, and medicine to help keep with health. But we shouldn't go to extremes with that or get too obsessed, and knowing it's impermanent. No, we care for it. It's just like having a car, there's only so long you can drive the car, and eventually it just, you can't maintain it anymore. It's like, it's just how things are. So just to recognize that impermanence, that, and just the realistic view of, yes, okay, this is the nature of things, so falling apart. Illness is the nature of things. This is Ajahn Brahm says, you go to the doctor, instead of saying something's wrong with me, you say something's right with me. I'm not feeling well, I'm sick or something. It's like, because this is the nature of the body and so if we're fighting against nature, then we're just making ourselves we're creating additional dukkha over the top of what's just comes with the having a body. So so there's nothing wrong with caring for the body, and but just knowing we'll do what we can, but eventually there's nothing we can do. It's just we just have to live with something that's chronic, especially as we get older. So I guess that's all for that. I hope that answers your question, but I like your second, what you said second, is that, just care for it best you can with the situation you have, how your body is, but not being despairing because it's not the way we were told.
Yeah, what I'm picked up, thank you for your words. What I've sort of picked up is to not care for the body with resentment, but to kind of look for that conflict point. Like if caring for the body brings up this this resentment or a little bit of conflict in the mind, then that's going too far. It's funny because it reminds me of the earlier in the suttas, whether it's the body or you have a right view, you think you have a right view, and you're talking, but if you hold on to that view, and it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, because it can lead to quarrels and all those other things. So it almost seems like the conflict it's a really good point to pay attention to, where to avoid conflict.
Yeah, I started thinking about that. Somebody entitled the meditation. That was Samaneri Sakyama, entitled the meditation, the non-disputing mind. And who do we dispute with the most? It's ourselves. So when we're sitting on the cushion, even though we think we're disputing with our friend who said something, it's actually all internal in our minds that we're creating. Which way should I take all this medicine and spend all this time doing this or not? And it's just kind of like, okay, sometimes I say, I've made this decision, that it's here. I'm gonna take these supplements or whatever, and not make myself feel bad for doing it. This is just part of my daily routine, okay, you know? So non-disputing is internally as well as with others. So if we just kind of be at peace with things as they are, and just knowing that all the medicine in the world isn't going to stop aging, sickness, and death. It's just like to a certain point, we're easing off with that. So we can go back to the sutta. And so now he started out with the rupa, and now he's getting to one aspect of nama, which is a feeling, and this is two of the 5 aggregates, which is kind of interesting. But he may have chosen Vedana just because this would speak to Dīghanakha. So he says there are ajivasena, 3 kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. On the occasion when one feels pleasant feeling, one does not feel painful feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant feeling. On that occasion when one feels only pleasant feeling, on the occasion when one feels painful feeling, one does not feel pleasant feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant feeling. On that occasion, one feels only painful feeling. On the occasion when one feels neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one does not feel pleasant feeling nor painful feeling. On that occasion, one feels only neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So this is Vedana, and this is at the 6 sense spaces. So and what is arising is contact at one of the sense spaces, and then at that moment when I actually feel pleasant, painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, at that moment I'm only experiencing that, although it may be a succession of various feelings that I'm experiencing. It's just that point of contact is just one. Pleasant feeling, ajivasena, is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, vanishing, fading away, and ceasing. Painful feeling, too, is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, vanishing, fading away, and ceasing. Neither painful nor pleasant feeling, too, is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, vanishing, fading away, and ceasing. So here he's emphasizing anicca again. And this is I believe that in that the simile, the Vedana is a bubbles, like where you have a pool and the water is dropping into the raindrops, and there's is that like bubbles? They just appear very quickly and disappear. Is there a note for this one?
Not yet. It's coming up in number 13.
Okay, all right. So this is seeing thus, a well-taught, noble disciple becomes disenchanted with pleasant feeling, disenchanted with painful feeling, disenchanted with neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Being disenchanted, they become dispassionate. Through dispassion, the mind is liberated. When it is liberated, it comes to knowledge. The knowledge, it is liberated. They understand birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. So this is quite a quantum leap here, where Dīghanakhasutta has been sticking to a view, but when you're talking about Vedana, the unpleasant, maybe what he was experiencing more of everything is disagreeable to him, but all of it's impermanent, all pleasant, painful, and neither painful nor pleasant. And then observing this impermanence with Vedana, they become disenchanted with it. There's nothing really to cling to. Bhante Sujato says, disillusioned. This is nibindati. So it's I like disenchanted because it's like we've been under this illusion, this enchantment, and then we see through the enchantment and disillusion. Okay, so there's an illusion. So they're both kind of similar. There's an illusion that this is like, if only I just got it right, and then it would be all pleasant and wonderful. But no, just moment to moment to moment, it's always in flux, always changing. Nothing that we can cling to. And so that we see that we can't cling to it. The desire fades away. When desire fades away, they're free. So this is viraga. It's a fading away. And then vimutti. Vimucchati, vimutasmim, vimuttamiti, jnanam hoti. That's a knowledge. Knowing that they're free, the mind is free. Holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. A bhikkhu whose mind is liberated thus, adhivasana, sides with none and disputes with none. They employ the speech currently used in the world without adhering to it. So they have no reason to dispute or argue with anyone. Since they know well, as someone who's entered the stream or someone who's fully liberated, doesn't need to argue because they just know. They don't need to prove to anybody their point. They know. I think if there's a note there.
There's a note here. It says, MA quotes a verse that says, an arahant may use the words I and mine without giving rise to conceit or misconceiving them as referring to a self or ego. Also in Dīghanakhasutta 953, the Buddha says of expressions employing the word self, these are merely names, expressions, terms of speech, designations in common use in the world, which the Tathagata uses without misapprehending them.
It's kind of amazing how it goes in two short hops from being wrong view to the body contemplation to Vedana to enlightenment. That's a very fast progress.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's quite a quantum leap going from this erroneous view, and then we'll see that Dīghanakhasutta has entered the stream. And I always have this conviction that the Lord Buddha knows exactly what to say to somebody. First to shake them from their view, and then to help them enter the stream or whatever it is that they're on the brink of, maybe on the brink of. For whatever reason, they're on this brink and they come to the Buddha. And it maybe even that Dīghanakhasutta was like kind of challenging the Buddha because he did have some uncertainty about his view. and he wanted to dispute with the Buddha so the Buddha would help. I mean, somewhere in his psyche there was this. He needed to seek the Buddha out. So
To feel nothing is acceptable. And to go from nothing is acceptable to dispassion, to the disillusionment, or disenchantment. You can see how that's easier to give up when you're sick and tired of the world. It is easier to be willing to go to disillusionment, to dispassion, to letting go.
was your mic on? Your mic wasn't on. Oh, she was talking about how that being disillusioned with the world, being having this view that nothing's unacceptable, to go to the viraga, to the dispassion, to go to from have the nibbida, have the nibbida, this disillusion or the disenchantment, to the viraga, to the fading away of passion. Raga is passion. The viraga is that the passion is, the passion's already gone. So I see Smita's hand up. Please, Smita. You can, I don't know if you want to turn your camera on or just speak.
I'll just speak. Hello,
Okay,
how are you doing?
pretty good.
So on the topic that you guys are discussing, what I see in my mind, I understand that the moment something pleasant or unpleasant happens, through my 5 sense organs, I can tell my mind that's not permanent, right?
Mhm.
You're not gonna keep, say, repeating the same action over and over. But when you think about it in the mind, so if you look at the mind sense door, you can repeat that action over and over, and it makes you think that it's like a permanent thing.
Mhm.
How can you tell your mind that it's impermanent? For example, like, I think you got my question. Let me know if I need to give any examples.
So you want to kind of relive something in your mind over and over again, or you can bring up a pleasant feeling in your mind and think
Yes.
it can be permanent.
Right. If you, for example, eat ice cream, I mean, physically, you can only eat ice cream 3 times and that's it. But in your mind, you can repeat that. So between physical actions, you can tell your mind that, okay, that's fleeting and that's not permanent. It's based on condition that I go and buy an ice cream and then I actually eat it, all of that. But when you come to the mental repetition of that, there seems to be no way to tell the mind that, hey, this is based on some condition and this is supposed to be seen as impermanent. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's part of you that doesn't want to believe that and would just would like like to be able to have things
Right.
pleasant always, and I can just create it in my mind. And some people live in a fantasy world, but it's, I guess what you have to be really sensitive and just watch, because what we pay attention to is what is prominent in our minds, and then we kind of fool ourselves. It's kind of like some reason I've been thinking about sleep, but I don't think I slept last night at all. But it's only because I was aware of when I was waking up, right? So that's what I was paying attention to. So some people who are aversive would be only thinking about what's unpleasant, and the people who are the green types would be thinking about the pleasant, so they could kind of create this illusion in their mind of this continuity of pleasantness. But we know better. Like you know better. Like you're describing to yourself. And
Right.
so you can just say, oh, I see that. I'm trying to create this illusion in my mind, and that I'm not ready to let go of this illusion. And is it, you could kind of examine it like like a forensic scientist or something like that, where, oh, look at that. This is like, I'm trying to fool myself again, I'm trying to create this illusion again. And rather than saying, oh, no, I shouldn't be doing this kind of a thing. It's like, oh, okay, there it is again. and just, because it's like things as they are, in accordance to reality. And the reality at the moment is that we're creating an illusion, or we're attempting to create an illusion for ourselves. And we think that's the way to happiness. This is the way to happiness, just to create in my mind this pleasant feeling. So, but I know it's fleeting. And you can just say, okay, I know it's fleeting, and I see myself doing that again. So
Right.
I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Ayya.
Okay, yeah, it's good to, I don't see you, but no, you're present.
Same here. Thank you.
Yeah, so, this, should we continue reading? The sutta has a beautiful ending. So Ayya Suvijjana has pointed out that Dīghanakhasutta went to erroneous view to insight and liberation, just with this seemingly brief encounter with the Buddha. So I'll just repeat 13 again. Bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, layperson's mind who is liberated thus, adivasena, sides with none, disputes with none, employs speech currently used in the world without adhering to it. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Sariputta was standing behind the Blessed One, fanning him. Then he thought, the Blessed One indeed speaks to us of the abandoning of these things through direct knowledge. These things, I think that's the views, but also of the body, adhering to the body, adhering to feelings, clinging to feeling, clinging to the pleasant or unpleasant even, through these things, through direct knowledge. So examining these things carefully, things in accordance to reality as they are. The Sublime One indeed speaks to us of relinquishing of these things through direct knowledge. As the Venerable Sariputta considered this, through not clinging, his mind was liberated from the taints. So he was a Sotapanna. Quite a while ago, we heard Sariputta's encounter with Asaji, and how Asaji had spoken a little bit about dependent origination, but what the Lord Buddha has proclaimed was that everything arises from a cause, and that he proclaimed, and also the ending, their ending. So this is Bhante Sujata's translation. Then Sariputta thought, it seems the Buddha speaks of giving up and letting go all these things through direct knowledge. Reflecting like this, the Venerable Sariputta's mind was freed from the defilements by not grasping. So he was just overhearing this conversation. And so the Lord Buddha probably knew exactly what Sariputta would be right for this as well. But the wanderer Dīghanakha, in the wanderer wanderer Dīghanakha, the spotless, immaculate vision of Dhamma arose. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. The wanderer Dīghanakha saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma. He crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained intrepidity. I can pronounce that right, intrepidity, and became independent of others in the teacher's dispensation. So this is it's interesting how the description of somebody entering the stream, it's just like this amazing phenomena is occurring in this person's mind. This big giant paradigm shift happens. It almost seems like that the becoming an arahant is just like this peaceful, like relinquishing. And the entering the stream is like the world is suddenly just but something very dramatic has happened internally. And then he said to the Blessed One, magnificent Gautama, magnificent Master Gautama. Master Gautama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overturned, revealing what had been hidden, what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gautama for refuge, to the Dhamma and the Sangha of bhikkhus. Is that right? From today, let the Master Gautama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. So I think there's a note. Yeah.
It just says, having reflected on the discourse spoken to his nephew, Venerable Sariputta developed insight and attained arahantship. Dīghanakha attained true experiential. That's it.
And it seems like I saw, maybe it was Bhante Sujata's notes that there was some argument whether actually Dīghanakha, since he was a wanderer, he actually went forth. And in I think in the Agyamas in the Chinese parallel, yeah, there is a long note in here. It talks about Sariputta became enlightened a fortnight after he was ordained, and details confirm multiple parallels to this passage. And I'm going to jump down to and because he left Sanjaya, the Venerable Sariputta, they were saying that the Dīghanakha was trying to win him back to that kind of philosophy that was similar to Sanjaya's. It says the Pali is alone in saying Dīghanakha became a lay follower. All the parallels report that he ordained and became an arahant. So that's just a little side note. Like a wanderer would more likely go forth under the Buddhist dispensation. So that makes sense. So somehow, and this is the stock thing that the lay followers say when they say magnificent, magnificent, and but it is pretty dramatic. I think going from being a Patujana to stream enterer is a big leap in someone's consciousness. So then they would be like, this is just amazing. Suddenly I can see, or suddenly, they've turned things in the right orientation for me to see. What has been knocked down has been uprighted. All those expressions that they use is a pretty dramatic paradigm shift for somebody. As if they were uprighting the overturned, or revealing the hidden, or pointing out a path to somebody who was lost. Like if you were completely lost and somebody says, that's the way, and you just be so overjoyed. And you go, oh, right, I can actually see in the distance, that's where you need to go. So it is kind of interesting how Sariputta was like, oh, wow. It's like, it was almost like a sigh of relief or something. I don't know. That's just how it strikes me. So does anyone, I saw, I saw Venerable Kachayana somewhere in the faces. I don't see them right at the moment, but I don't know if they have something they would like to add since they're in the virtual audience.
QIA, happy to be here and listening. I don't have anything particular to add at the moment. I do see a hand up from Richard.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to give, I was seeing that the monastic, Venerable Fatima, would you like to say something? Do you have nothing, no comment? Okay. Ayya Suvijjana made her comment also. Okay, so Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Ayya. There is additional note in Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. It's note number, I think it's 739, and it points to notes 588 and 589. If someone there has that available to read. It's all about stream entry and vision of the Dharma and everything. It might be interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
The vision of the Dhamma Chakku, is the path of stream entry. The phrase, all that is subject to arising is subject to cessation, shows the mode in which the path arises. The path takes cessation, the Nibbana, as its object, but its function is to penetrate all conditioned states as subject to arising and cessation. The Dhamma referred to here is the Four Noble Truths. Having seen these truths for himself, he has cut off the fetter of doubt and now possesses the view that is noble and emancipating, and which leads the one who practices in accordance with it to the complete destruction of suffering.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So there's a expression that the one who's entered the stream possesses the Four Noble Truths. So it's more than just an intellectual understanding, and it's a and view is like actually seeing for oneself, like knowing for oneself. It's direct knowledge. So it's a really penetrating knowledge. It can't be shaken. It can't be, I mean, in one's own mind, you wouldn't dispute it. Maybe, but so you just know for yourself very clearly.
Excuse me, I also wanted to add some something here. But when it says he employs the speech currently used in the world without adhering to it. Sometimes we think of this as that type of speech like my body and all these kind of things, but it also includes other speech like, when what's known as a Maharaja, a great king, comes to visit the Buddha, like Bimbisara or one of them, Buddha always addresses him as, "Oh, great king." You know what I mean? Although we would think in our minds that the Buddha is much greater than the king, right? But he uses that conventional speech there, the speech that's going to keep harmony, you might say, in society, what people expect you to say, what people expect you to do like that, And, but it's interesting to note that in one sutta, Buddha says that the happiness of the stream enterer, right, that being a world conqueror, right, that happiness is not even 1/16 of the happiness of that one experiences when one attains stream entry. And so you can see, reflected here, right, in Dīghanakhasutta, that complete happiness and joy, magnificent Master Gotama, magnificent Master Gotama. You know what I mean? That wow, I can see it now. And it's also interesting to note in Sariputta, he says, Sariputta says, then he thought, the Blessed One indeed speaks of the abandoning of these things, which is Dhamma. The word is actually Dhamma in the Pali, through direct knowledge. The Sublime One indeed speaks of the relinquishing of these things against its Dhamma through direct knowledge, right? So these two things, both the abandoning and the relinquishing, right? The Buddha is speaking through direct knowledge of these things. And when Sariputta, who's already a stream enterer, realizes that so clearly and so completely in his own mind that he's also able to just release and relinquish those things and attain nirvana, because his confidence is so complete, you might say, at that point. Anyways, I just wanted to bring those couple of points up. Also, the lady was asking earlier about the body, and I mentioned that thing about subservience of the body. But keep in mind that the fifth step on the path, right livelihood, Buddha says that the highest form of right livelihood is the life of a monastic, and he describes it as a life or one of few wants. So, and he also says in terms of the Dharma and monastics as well, is that you're not supposed to self-torture yourself or anything like that. You want to lead a life of ease and comfort. They even use the term comfort sometimes. Not overly comfort the way a worldly person would lead, but it's not necessary if it can be avoided. Now sometimes suffering and things can't be avoided, but if it can be avoided, it's not necessary. But leading a life of few wants, where you just have the few requisites and a peaceful life, and you don't have to spend a lot of time. The reason why that's the best, highest form of right livelihood is you don't have to spend all day trying to get food and everything like that, which is what the average person, right? They go to a job, they have to work all day. No, you just spend a couple of hours, you go begging. This is in ancient India, right? You get your food, you eat it, and then you go back, and then the afternoon you spend the days of abiding, right? They call it the days of abiding, and that was to go and in most cases to go and sit and meditate. Okay, so now you have the time in the day to sit and meditate. You get up in the morning, you don't have to go out and milk the cows or something. You can meditate in the morning, then you go and you get your food and stuff, you do your begging round, and then you have the afternoon you can sit too, peaceful days abiding, right? Meditating. And then maybe you take a bath in the evening, and then you can go and either meet with other people and discuss the Dharma, or you can do some more meditation, right? So you get all this time and hours of the day that a normal person has to spend a lot of time just to survive, right? And be subservient, take care of the body doesn't have. But it doesn't mean any sort of self-torture or anything. It's a very wonderful, blissful, happy existence if one is approaching it in the right frame of mind. Anyways, that's all I want to say. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Yeah. I want to mention about the things and the phenomena is, I think, what they're talking about with, when it mentions Dhamma, I think they're talking about he was talking about Nama Rupa, they used the body and weighted it as a mental factor. So, not attaching to those things, not being attached. But it is a middle way, that we're not, we're not neglecting the body, we're not neglecting our mental faculty. But that subservience, yeah, I don't know, monastic life, you can, no, I've heard stories of even in Thailand where people support the monastics really well, like people walking for many miles and then going to villages and they're ignored. I've heard of that happening in this country too, but, so, or you might just get a small amount of rice and nothing else because you're in a poor area and they don't have much to give. They're all laboring hard and they don't have a lot to give. So that's ideal situation. It would be lovely. It would be lovely in this country. It's a lot more complicated, monastic life. So we have to do the best we can. This is the thing. We do the best we can and let go. This is Ajahn Mahapasar's expression that he says often. Do the best you can and let go. So do the best you can, caring for yourself, caring for the mind, caring for the body, and let go. So, I don't know if there's much else to say. We could probably end unless if somebody has a burning question or you could, if you have a Buddha image, you can turn towards it, or you could, we have a beautiful image right here. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagavo Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadami Vakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Vipatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you. Thank you. Ayya